Most of you already know inflation, high rates, and low inventory have home costs feeling higher than the day you got your wisdom teeth out.
Is this real life?
Yeah. It's not surprising that Google search shows that buyers think buying a home is stressful, impossible, a bad investment, and scary. Don't let that get you down though. In this video, I'll give you the 6 things you need to know to turn this torture into a good deal.
I'm in the middle of an interrogation. This moron is giving me everything.
I don't give everything.
My name is Ben Wiesner. I've been a real estate broker and investor since 2011. During that time, I've helped people buy apartments and houses, and I grew and managed a portfolio of 400 units, 50 of which were my own by the time I turned 30. In that time, I've seen the market go from heavily favoring the buyer in 2011 to normalizing, and then COVID shooting it up to be a seller's market. Here's a chart showing how that happens. What it shows here is the blue line, which is the month's supply of inventory. So however many listings there are in the market, how long it would take to sell all those current listings. The red line is the normal 6-month line. That's an average for the market. When it's below that line, you see that prices rise. And when it gets above that 6-month of inventory, prices decrease. So from 2007 to 2012, you can see that the prices were declining as the supply was up. And then after that, the supply came down again and prices started to go up over time as well. And then we hit COVID and everything just shot up. As of about August of this year, we're at around 4.2 months of supply. So we are getting back towards the norm, but we're still not quite there yet, which is a good sign for buyers. In all my years, I've never seen so many buyers frustrated to the point where they just want to give up on buying a home. It's not easy in the current market, but the decisions you make can either lighten the load or make it feel completely impossible. So how do we make home buying easier in 2024? There's a lot of YouTube videos out there that just kind of tell you about the whole buying process. And to me, it's information overload. A lot of that stuff you can just figure out along the way. You don't need all those little details right up front. What I want to give you is the 6 keys that I think are the most important to make sure you're making good choices throughout the whole process. These 6 keys are: set yourself up to be a strong buyer, choose your agent and lender wisely, and this is definitely the most important of the 6. You want to have a quality agent and lender guide you through the whole process. What to actually look for during showings, strategies for negotiating, staying organized with after your accepted offer, and how to use inspections to your advantage. If this is your first time buying, you've probably already been scouring websites like Zillow, looking for the perfect home somewhere between your budget and the most expensive home in the state. It's okay, everybody does it. It's good to use this online tool. It's a great tool to help you know the market before you jump in. But that is just a small part of the whole buying process. If you're able to grasp these lessons, you'll soon find yourself in your new home without the buyer's remorse so many people are dealing with these days. The first key is being a strong buyer, and we're going to start out with getting your credit right. There's a lot of resources online that give you more details on how to improve your credit score. I put a link down to one of them in the description below. But again, they're all over the place, just so you can search it on Google. Some of the key points that make a large impact on your credit score are getting back on track with your late payments. You can talk to your debtors and come up with a payment plan with them so they can switch your late payments to something that's current and get that off of your credit score. Paying off debts, I would recommend just getting as much accounts off your credit score as you can. So that probably means paying off the lowest ones first and just chipping away at them so you can get those completely off your credit score. Credit cards can be your friend. When you first sign up for a credit card, they're going to ping your score because they want to see where it's at, and that's going to lower your credit a little bit. But over time, as you keep that account going and you pay it off each month, don't spend more than you can pay each month. Just keep paying it down to zero so you don't pay those crazy interest rates of like 25%. But as you do that, the credit bureau is going to see that you're able to maintain this credit card at a low balance, and also you have a lot of credit left over in case something were to go wrong. Say you're in between jobs and you need to rely on your credit cards a little more than usual. They see that you have that cushion. Also, when you're applying for a loan, try to pay down those balances to zero a few days before. I was actually going in to get a car loan once, and I first went into a lender to see what their rates would be at. They ran my credit score and gave me a rate. And then when I went into the dealership and they wanted to give me their own rate, they ran my credit score again. But in between that time, I paid off all my balances to zero. And I saw that my credit score was, I think, about 10 points higher. And for some people, this can make a big difference whether you're at one of those threshold levels. So try to do that before you go into any loan application scenario. Next is your debt to income ratio. This is the percentage of your monthly income that goes towards paying your monthly debt payments. Lenders like to see this below 36% to give you their better rates. Their cutoff point is about 45% debt to income. So to get the best rates, you again want to pay off those small accounts because those are adding to your percentages. And when you pay off those small accounts, then you have less debt payments each month and you can lower your debt to income ratio. And this will give you a better interest rate. A side note for some of you that may just be getting into the investment side, maybe you want to buy a duplex or a 4-family, something like that. You're just getting out of school, have your fresh new income coming in. Do not buy a car before you buy a house. This is very important. A car is a liability. It depreciates over time and you have a loan on it, and banks hate these car loans. If you go into a dealership, they're not going to care that you have this massive loan on a house comparable to the car loan, a massive loan on a house, because a house is an appreciating asset and it's a normal thing for people to own. But a mortgage lender is definitely going to care if you have one of those car loans and you're close on that debt to income ratio. I am going to cover more on investment strategy, especially for people that are just starting out in investments. So if you want to see those videos pop up, hit the subscribe button down there. Be greatly appreciated. Next is building up cash for closing and your cash reserves after closing. So a bank will help you figure out all these numbers. They'll go over how much you want to put down and what kind of loan you want to get and give you a cost analysis of it, a little spreadsheet of what you're going to need to bring to closing and what they're going to want to see in your cash reserves after you close. I'm sure a lot of you know that a normal down payment on a house is about 20%. As you move down from there, 15, 10, 5, even 3.5 for an FHA loan. Your interest rates are going to rise up as you do that. So you want to build up as much cash as you can before you get to that point where you're ready to buy, so you can keep a lower interest rate as well. Then there's a reserve requirement. This is what a bank looks for you to have after closing left in your cash accounts. So they want to make sure that you're going to be able to continue to make payments even if, like before, you're in between jobs or you have some kind of issue. They want to make sure that you can keep making your payments. And it's going to depend on your down payment amount, your credit score, and your debt to income ratio. You can see in this chart from LendingTree, depending on what the down payment is and all these other things, they're going to give you how many months they want to see you to have in reserves. So yeah, the lower the down payment, the lower the credit score, the higher the debt to income ratio, the more they're going to want to have a cushion. The last part to being a strong buyer is to know what you're looking for and know what you're willing to compromise on. In a market that has some speculators saying that it may be in a bubble, you don't want to stretch yourself too thin. You don't want to be house broke with your monthly payments taking all of your cash each month. This chart shows inflation adjusted home prices over the years. So it's a good indicator of how overpriced the markets might be because, again, it's adjusted for inflation. So kind of levels the playing field there. You can see how in 2008 we were at a very high index and crashed down like 30%. And then after 2012, we went up again, and then COVID hit. Now we're at this high peak again. This is high. Like, look at over all this time where this was the peak in 1989. And yeah, so this was unprecedented, and this is even worse today. So yeah, it's a good time to be cautious. And popular areas have been notoriously low on inventory, which has brought these prices up. And a lot of these homes have no business being sold where they're at. They have work that needs to be done on them, and the sellers are kind of scooting that under the rug in hopes that people put in an offer without inspection because offers are so competitive. So when you're in these COVID boom areas or whatever area it just is a hot market, you want to make sure that you're really doing a thorough job at showings to look through the house and make sure it's in good shape for you, because you don't want to overpay for it. A good thing to do in this time period is to compromise on the location that you're looking at. So if you really want to be in one of those hot markets, you should try to just look just outside of that area to see if there's more affordable, less competitive housing options. I'll give you an example. I just had a client that was looking for a home in this city, Brookfield. As you can see from the zip codes, this area is 20% overpriced compared to like long-term price to income ratios. It says 31% overpriced, 15% overpriced. So after looking at a bunch of houses, they kind of got tired of it and decided to expand their area to a more affordable area. And they went to Menominee Falls, which is 7% overpriced, which is a lot better compared to that 20%. And they ended up getting a house that was everything they were looking for and at a reasonable price. I'd say we got a good deal on it, and they're very happy with where they're at now. So just keep in mind, you can go to these less competitive areas and get everything you're looking for in a house at a much better price point. The second key is choosing who you're going to work with. And like I said, this is the most important one out of all the keys that I'm giving you. I can't stress enough how choosing the right agent and lender is the most important decision you'll make throughout the whole process. We'll start with the lenders. The three main points you want to consider with them is their speed and organization. A great lender will be on top of moving you through the deal and keeping you updated and on task with getting everything in on time. Typically, a finance contingency is 35 days long. Sometimes they're 25 days if the seller or the buyer need to speed up the transaction for whatever reason. In those 25-day scenarios, there are lenders that cannot keep up with it, and they can be a bottleneck and they can ruin the deal in a couple of ways. They can push things back. They can get you in trouble with not meeting a deadline. They can open you up to losing your earnest money or even a lawsuit if you don't do what you say you're going to do and they hold you back. You can check this by checking reviews of lenders or banks and making sure that nobody's complaining about them being late all the time, or asking your agent, who's going to know a lot of local lenders, how they've worked with them in the past. Interest rates and closing costs. This is pretty straightforward. Once you get pre-approved, their lenders can be able to give you different loan options and different costs with those loan options and interest rates. The costs are often just as important as those interest rates, because sometimes they'll say there's a low rate, but then those closing costs are jacked up. So just make sure you're checking these. And even if you go through a whole pre-approval process with one lender, you can still go to another lender and ask them for quote on closing costs and interest rate and compare those two to see which one you want to go with, given which loan option you want to go with. The third thing is, do they service their loans? So one thing that a lot of lenders do, they facilitate the transaction as far as getting a loan with somebody on their house at closing. And then after closing, they will sell that mortgage as an asset to another company. And these third-party companies that take on these loans are the ones that are going to service the loans. So that means you're making your payments to them. If there's an issue, you call them to go through it and figure it out. And a lot of these third parties that buy these loans, they don't care about customer service because they really don't have to. They got the loan and they're just coasting along with the loan as you make the payments. So I would recommend asking lenders if they are going to service it in-house. And a lot of local lenders do this. So that's a good way to kind of reassure yourself that you're dealing with one of them. And yeah, try to work them, because you can go into their branch, or you can call them directly, one of their loan officers, and have your questions answered or fix an issue if there is one. Then there are brokers and agents, everybody's favorite people. I don't know if there's a bigger group of professionals marked as overpaid and unnecessary as agents, but yeah, it just depends on the agent you get. In my 13 years as a broker, which if you don't know is agent, broker, and then you have the managing broker of an office. And each one of those steps, they just have more responsibilities for the deals and more legal responsibility if something were to happen in those deals. In my 13 years, I've seen plenty of agents who should not be getting full commission on their deals. They're just bad. They can be bad communicators, terrible negotiators, unorganized, unethical, unprofessional, and just plain lazy. Some of them remind me of used car salesmen who are willing to do and say anything just to have the deal go through, whether it's to their client's benefit or not. They just want that commission. These are the bad actors that give professionals who are true to their clients a bad name, and they can make a deal miserable in so many ways. A good example of this from my experience is one that I had with a client where we got an accepted offer on a house. The day we went to go see it, the only showing we had, it was raining, so we didn't get a good look at the outside, mostly toured the inside. And the buyers really liked it, and it was a competitive market. Put an offer in, got it accepted, made sure there was an inspection contingency in there because we knew that we didn't get a full look at it. Come inspection, we got a close look and saw that the siding and a lot of the wood around the house, especially like the window frames and the door frames, fascia and all that stuff, had been deteriorating. And they put caulk and foam in those areas to fill it in and then painted over it. We got a bid on it. It was 100 grand to 150 grand. And we got out of the deal. It wasn't worth negotiating at that point. It was too big of a number. Sellers didn't want to negotiate it down that much. So we got out, and After that, we were waiting to see what it sold for. The offer that we had put in was 900,000. It ended up selling for 880,000. So obviously didn't account for all those repairs that were needed on the exterior. Maybe the agent didn't see it or didn't think it was as big of a deal and didn't get a bid on it. But whatever it is, they didn't take the proper steps that they should have to make sure that their client was safe in this investment. The buyers were probably happy at first and thought they got a good deal and were happy about it. But a few months in, they're going to notice that stuff and get a bid on it and see that they're 100K in the hole. Meanwhile, the broker gets their 25 grand commission and they're on a beach somewhere enjoying their vacation from that commission check. This example shows why your choice in agent is so important, and you shouldn't leave it to these listing websites when you go to them and you say you want to go to a showing and they set you up with an agent automatically. A lot of those agents are paying to be there, and you can imagine that the agents who need to pay the most for those spots are the ones that probably don't have the good reputation and the good word of mouth going out to get more clients on their own. At first, when you go to these websites, you'll see in this example that you get a scheduled tour, and then there's a fine print that says, when you schedule this tour, you're just going to be handed an agent that's going to contact you. And they know that a lot of people just go with the first agent that is given to them. And thanks to the new laws around agents and commissions, they can't show you a home until they have a contract with you. So these websites give their users this high pressure sales situation where it maybe doesn't feel high pressure, but really they're not comparing agents and they're just going with the first one given them. And buyers, like, you should remember that you are the market for these agents. They need to compete and give you attractive commission rates and services to win you over. So keep that in mind. Just don't go with the first agent that you're given if you don't know a lot about them. I'll give you more on finding good agents in a bit. First, I'm going to give you a list of the qualities that good agents have. First is home maintenance and repair knowledge. A good example of this is when I went on a showing with a client, and it was a 1920s house that needed a lot of window replacements. They're just getting old, deteriorating, and letting a lot of air through. So we knew in the short term they were going to need to replace them. And I gave them an estimate of 25 to 35 grand for the windows that need to be replaced. At the same time, there was another agent and their client in the showing. I overheard them talking, and he told them that it'd be 10 or 15 grand to repair windows. And he didn't get into specifics of it. He just kind of told them that that was their number. So you can imagine how someone in a competitive area, especially going into a house, wanting to put in a quick offer, and they don't put an inspection clause in, they're going to get caught with that 10 to 15 grand difference after they already closed on the property, because they're not going to know until after. Again, the agent's going to walk away happy. The buyer's going to be happy at first, but then they'll realize that they made a huge mistake. Next, we have negotiation and people skills. Being likable, authentic, and able to read a situation not only helps them serve you as a buyer or seller, but also is very important in negotiation. Being able to read between the lines when having a conversation with an agent, being liked by that agent, and factoring in all the nuances of the deal and the seller situation are all important when negotiating. This skill rarely comes naturally and usually takes experience to hone in on which tactics are used in which situations. I'm going to give you some more tips on negotiating a little bit, so we'll come back to that. Market knowledge. Since you can see most of the market on the internet now, it's not as big of a factor as it used to be. The difference maker here is that an agent who has a lot of clients and is in negotiations more often than an agent who has less clients, and they see more of the day-to-day of which way the market's swaying, if homes are going for over ask in an area, under ask, how fast they're selling, how quick you need to jump on making a deal. Those are all important to get a leg up over those other agents. A good agent will also keep up on market data, knowing trends in different cities and neighborhoods that you're looking at. And in an ever-changing market, this is a very important thing. I mean, you know the market's been crazy, so a little data to back up what they're saying goes a long way. The fourth quality you want to see is putting their client's interests first. You would think for the sake of ethics and their reputation, this would be a given, but it's actually the biggest thing I see that leads to buyers and sellers' remorse. If you get a used car salesman kind of agent that is more worried about their commission than your investment in a home, you're going to get hurt by that. After closing on a home that you realize is not what you expected, it can eat away at you mentally and financially. These are the kind of agents that I hate the most and that give our industry a bad name. In my opinion, they should be swerved like a bad ex and never receive another client again. Organized and timely. Agents who are lazy and unorganized will at best keep their clients stressed and irritated throughout the entire transaction. Worst case is they actually miss one of those important deadlines and cause the deal to get delayed. You can lose your earnest money or even have legal issues because you didn't follow through on what you said you were going to do in the deal. Lastly, we have commission fees. The typical commission on a house is 5 to 6%, which used to be paid by the sellers and then split between the listing agent and the buyer's agent. Buyer's agent will usually get about 2.4%. Though this has always been negotiable, recent changes put more of a spotlight on these fees and added an extra layer of negotiation between clients and their agents. Some agents will offer lower rates on larger home sales, family and friends, or reduced services to their clients. In any case, it's obviously an important factor to consider. Many agents are not worth what they charge, but if you get an agent that checks all the boxes on this list, you'll be happy to have them in your corner earning their commission. A seller agent can save you from mistakes that cost tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars, as I've mentioned. If you need a resource that exiles these bad agents while only showing you the best in your area, Homies.pro does just that. There's no paid placements on the website, like these listing sites that just shove an agent onto you and hope it's a good one. We invite only top-rated agents in counties across the US to join and then give you a list to choose from. We then continue to monitor their service quality with reviews from every client that they work with. If they don't keep up a stellar service rating, they're weeded out, as they should be. Homies also keeps you organized and guides you from start to close. Your custom timeline keeps your docs and due dates in order, while Homie, our AI bot, answers any real estate questions that you might have along the way. It's free to use and even has an agreement with agents to discount their commission by $500 on your first deal. There's a link in the description to check it out, and there's also a coupon code in the description if you want to use the premium features for free as well. Getting back into it, we have key number 3, which is what to look for during showings. Red flags are not only for dating. You need to remember this as you fall in love with the first home that you walk through. Just like looking for a soulmate, a home can have attractive curb appeal, great flow, and make you feel like it was meant to be. But there are signs. Keep in mind you can turn these red flags into green cash with an inspection contingency. Having an inspection not only allows you to have a professional give a health exam of the property, it also gives you a chance to renegotiate the deal based on their findings. We'll cover more on using this to your advantage in a bit. For now, here are some common red flags to look for during those first and second showings. We'll start with the exterior and water damage. You can see that along this roof line in these areas, the siding and the trim was built too close to the roof line. So that's why this water is seeping up into those areas and causing damage. It's also here where you have overflowing from the gutters that is causing damage along this siding. And actually, in this case, it went inside of the siding here and down to this door frame and messed up the interior and exterior of that door frame. Also here, you have it building up again at the gutter, and then it comes under this soffit and trails over to here and causes damage here, as well as to the wood around here. So keep an eye out for signs like that, that water is not flowing right or things are not constructed right on the home. Water flow and landscaping. This is a great diagram that shows you the don'ts of water flow on a property. So here you have a gutter that isn't extended out, the extension's off, and the water is getting towards the basement, which would cause the basement to bow and have water seep through. On this side, you have a slope that goes towards the building. You always want to have, it's called the grade. It's the slope of the ground coming off the building. You always want to have the grade go down away from it. And there's standards for that any landscaper would know and help you figure out. Here we just again see how this water here builds up and makes the wall bow. And this is an example of bad grading around the house. Driveway and concrete, this is something that you need to address right away when you make an offer. A lot of times, even if you have an inspection contingency, the sellers are going to be like, well, you could see that obviously before you did that inspection, so we're not going to let you renegotiate that part of this deal. So you want to make sure you see this before you put the offer in. It's just cracking and it coming apart a bit in certain areas. You can see that both these need to be redone. Material deterioration, this is actually from that house I was talking about before where they painted over the outside issues. You can see here some foam that they injected and then cut to kind of form around here, and they painted over it. And here we have the caulking that they did in different areas and again painted over. So just keep a close eye for stuff like that on the outside of the house. Roof age, these shingles on the right, they're just getting old and deteriorating and going to need to be replaced soon. So again, it's another cost that you're going to want to keep in mind. And this left picture shows moss building up, which also can deteriorate shingles and make you need to replace them sooner than they should be. For the interior, we have appliance and HVAC ages. So what you should do, a lot of times they might write the install date on the actual side of the furnace or whatever you're looking at. But most of the time you have to just take a picture of these little stickers here and they'll say a model and a serial number, and you can go online and check out when they were actually made, and you can see how old they are that way. Typically it's like 10 years for a lot of these kind of appliances, and they start to get old and need to be replaced. So that's usually a good age to start being concerned about them. Drywall cracks signaling movements. A lot of these cracks that involve movement of the house will come from these corners or from up in the corner in a room. You can see here even the door is kind of cracked apart a little bit or has a little gap there. But a lot of times this means that there's movement in the foundation. And in the really old houses, that movement and settling could have happened early on, and it's not a continuing thing. So it's stable and it's not going anywhere. But yeah, this is definitely like a cause for concern, and you want to keep it in mind when you're putting the offer in and thinking about if you want inspection, because it's definitely a good idea to have someone who's a professional take a look at this and give you their opinion. Foundation movement. This is a huge one because basements are always a huge pain in the ass to fix, expensive. A step crack is a very telltale sign of movement in the walls. And you can also kind of put your cheek up against the wall and just kind of eyeball it and see if there's a little curvature in the wall. And then here we have, again, water, and you can see that they probably don't have proper grading outside or something wrong with the gutter system, that kind of stuff. And that created these step cracks coming off. And this way, if you could see more of the picture, you could see that this line went further this way. So it's just warped from here on. So yeah, big expense. Want to make sure that it's good and consider it in your offer. A lot to do with water. Signs of water and flooding around windows in this area and around this little inside corner. If a window's failing or there's water creeping in from the outside somewhere, you should be able to see it with these little bubbles or some discoloration. Again, discoloration in the foundation walls or the floor where you can see signs of water. If you have drywall, or even if it's real bad like this, there's mineral buildup that's coming through the cement. So when the water comes through, it brings minerals out of the cement block with it. Those are also good signs that the basement's been leaking, and you're going to want to check with the seller to see when the last time this happened was. They're legally supposed to tell you when they had the last knowledge of it happening. And construction quality. So this is where you want to look at the little nuanced things, like the flooring here not lining up, this trim coming off the wall a little bit, and you can see that caulk is even getting separated. The quality of materials, open the cabinets, open the doors, see how light and flimsy they are, see if they align well. A lot of that are telltale signs of how well they constructed it, and might be signs of how good the bones are inside of the walls as well. Lastly is window health. It's a little harder to see this on the picture on the left. You used to have some paint chipping and a little bit of deterioration of this wood here, so there definitely could be some water coming in around the window. And then this is an example of a failed seal on a window. So there's moisture getting up in there and it kind of fogs up the window. Those are both good signs that the windows are going to need to be replaced soon, and you want to factor that into your costs in your mind. So those are just some common red flags on houses. Being able to spot these defects is crucial in making sure you don't overpay for a home. If you don't have an inspection contingency, especially, now is the time to bring them up when you send your offer in. A lot of times what I'll do, and a lot of other agents do, is when you write up your offer and you consider all these defects and what their costs might be, include a list of all that with your offer. So when your agent sends that email with the offer in it, include that list in the offer so their agent can show their seller and not have to explain everything, because when you try to do it by word of mouth, the agent is going to miss some things that you told them and kind of dumb it down. So having a nice solid list is good to put in there. Okay, we're on to key number 4, negotiation tactics. Again, a good agent is going to have this covered for you, but just in case you're with someone that might be a little green, a little new to the game, or just isn't paying enough attention and caring enough to do this for you, I want to give you some pointers on what you should know. The last one in this list is a tactic that has given me the best results in 2024 for areas that are in that high demand. So the first one is be prepared to walk away. You don't want to get too attached to any property because odds are if you do and there's some kind of bidding war on it, you're going to overpay for it. So make sure that you go into any negotiation knowing what your top dollar is going to be and that you're okay not getting the property and not going over that price. The next one is contain your excitement, and this is twofold. During showings, don't walk in there and be like, this is the best house I've ever seen. I need to put an offer in on it right now. I'm going to get this house. Play it cool. Just go through, look around on it. Even if there is an agent there, everybody has in-home cameras for security. So just play it cool while you're there. Talk about it with your agent once you leave the house. Second part of that is the manner in which you submit your offer. If you can wait and not run home and have your agent run home and submit an offer in the next 3 hours, do that, because if you show too much ambition for putting the offer in, they're going to know that you really want the place. So if you can, wait a day and a half, 2 days, and then submit your offer. The next is bringing up issues that you found during your showing. If you're not going to have an inspection, this is the time to factor them into your price, and don't be afraid to state these issues, like I said before, and estimates when you're submitting your offer. Like I said, when your agent sends that email, put a list of all the defects and your estimates of how much you think they cost to repair in there, so the seller has a list to go off of and can see. If you will be having an inspection, don't bring these issues up just yet. You should put your offer in where you want to have it priced at, and hopefully you get it. And then when you have your inspection, you can have the inspector bring up these issues and then get professionals in there to give you bids on all of them, and then bring those to the seller to renegotiate the deal again. Fourth thing is wait it out. If you think a property is overpriced, don't submit a lowball offer right off the bat. Sellers are usually going to be pretty confident about their listing in the first week or two. You got to give them time to kind of sulk about either if they don't have a lot of showings because it's overpriced, or they're not getting any offers because it's overpriced. Let that sink into their head and kind of diminish their confidence in it. Then if they lower the price, or if it's been 3 or 4 weeks, you can submit that offer that is at the price that you think it should be at. Next is sending comparables, or as we call them, comps. This is just homes that are at a similar price range and similar features in the area that have sold. So you have kind of proof of where the market is on the house that you're looking at. And if there are some low comps in the area that work in your favor, feel free to send those with your offer again, along with that list of defects. Give reasons why these comparables are a close match and justify the price that you're sending in. Next is don't let them milk your offer. So binding acceptance says how long they have to sign your offer. Keeping it less than a day and as little as a few hours in some cases, where you really want to make sure they don't go and talk to other buyers and say, hey, we have a new offer in and you should put an offer in right away if you want to. You don't want them to go do that and just kind of leave your offer dangling and use it to bid up other people. It also makes the sellers make a bit more of a quick decision and decide if the offer that they have in front of them on the table is worth them accepting. Try to give a logical reason for this kind of move. For example, if you're looking at other houses on the market and there's another one that you want to put an offer on, just tell them, hey, I want to hear back from you in the next 5 hours because there's another house that is on the market I like, and I don't want to miss out on an opportunity to put an offer in on that one. The last one, and the one that has become my new favorite in those high demand situations, is the Uno reverse card.
Yellow card. The Uno reverse. She's Uno reverse it. That's a first.
Buyers often operate on FOMO. If they see a house they like, they don't want to miss out on it. Here's a negotiation tactic that flips that onto the sellers. It works especially well when the seller is asking for 3 to 4 days on binding acceptance. So they want to get more showings in, get more offers in, and then wait until it's a good time for them to review everything they have, all the offers they have, and pick the best one. You want to take that away from them. So you want to figure out the high end of your offer, the top dollar that you want to pay for the property. If you really like it, it's worth it to you. You want to figure out what that highest number is going to be. And that's where you make your offer. But what you do is, in the special provisions, you add a clause that says if the offer is not accepted in the next 3 to 5 hours, the price is gonna reduce to another level. So say you're putting an offer in at 600,000 and 3 to 5 hours, whatever it might be, just make sure you give the seller enough time to look at it and be able to sign it, like if they're at work or whatever. After that time period expires, then your offer is gonna go down to something like 570,000. So they're missing out on 30 grand that they have in their hands, and they're gonna think, okay, so this guy may or may not be bluffing, first of all, but in reality, in 3 or 4 hours, I'm going to have an offer that's 30K less than the offer that I have in my hands right now. So it puts that FOMO on them and makes them strongly consider whether or not they want to accept that offer right away. Also, once they lose that high offer that you're giving them, they know that they might not get that in another offer from these other people that they're going to wait on. So it's again another reason for them to just want to accept what's in their hand right now. Okay, key 5 is staying organized after your accepted offer. There's a lot that goes into completing a real estate transaction. To give you a quick overview of the process, first thing is paying the earnest money or escrow. Usually that's within 5 days. There's an inspection that's usually 15 days long. You need to find and schedule an inspector right away so they can get in there and give you a health bill on the whole property. The quicker you do that, the better, because then you got to get your specialist in there to give you bids. Scheduling a specialist and getting that bid could take another 5 days or so, maybe longer. And then after that, you still have to negotiate the price. So that 15-day window for inspections is relatively tight for doing all those things and being able to negotiate before that contingency ends. Then the mortgage, so there's a lot of documents that are going to be provided to you that you need to review and sign. They'll need to schedule an appraisal. FHA requires another inspection of their own along with that appraisal. This usually takes 10 to 15 days for that whole appraisal process. This whole mortgage process usually takes about 30 days. A great lender can get it done in 15 to 20. And then getting ready for closing, making sure all the contingencies are completed on time, negotiating and signing amendments to have changes to the deal, receiving and reviewing a closing statement, getting insurance, closing location, final walkthrough, all that stuff set. Closing day is fairly simple. Again, making sure all the ducks in a row, setting up the wire transfers, bringing in the requirement documents and keys and whatever else to closing, just making sure that that's all set. Getting back to the points, keeping all these documents, dates, and deadlines that are in your head, in scattered emails, in scattered text message threads, in best case, can lead you to stress if they're not organized well. Worst case, you can actually miss one of your deadlines and have a whole another set of issues that come from that. It could delay your deal. You can forfeit your $5,000 to $10,000 earnest money, and also open up to the lawsuits. If you have a great agent, they'll keep you up to speed on the deadlines and keep you rolling through as you should. However, if you end up with somebody that's subpar, then you're going to be stressed and kind of flying blind through the biggest transaction of your life. So great agent or not, you don't want to constantly worry if you're missing something or take the risk of losing your deal or earnest money. So to help, make sure you keep a well-organized electronic or physical folder of all the documents that you're receiving. Enter reminders prior to their due dates on your calendar to check in on them, because a lot of these things that you have going on take 5, 6, 7 days to complete. So you want to make sure that you're looking ahead to see what due dates you have coming up. The visuals that I showed you from all these steps were straight from that Homey software that I talked about earlier. We designed it with buyers and sellers in mind to give them a great experience on the best way to keep your whole deal organized as you get to closing. There's chronological details, deadlines, tasks, documents, chats, all that included in it. Again, there's a link in the description for it, so you can check it out if you want. Also, whether you need to find an agent through that app or if you already have one, it's free to use for everybody and it's collaborative. So as soon as your agent or lender uploads something, you're going to see that as well in the software. So it's great to help you keep track without having to actually put effort in to organizing it. And then at the end, there's a one-click download where you can get all of your documents and chats and the whole timeline into one folder on your computer. So it's pretty slick. Very proud of it, and I think you'll love using it. The last thing here, last key number 6, is how to use inspections to your advantage. So we covered some of this in the negotiation section. You should now have a trained eye on what to look for during your showings. But if you have an inspection contingency, save what you see for the inspector to go through and give you a professional review on what's going on. Inspection contingency also gives you that second round of negotiating. So keep that in mind, that you can save some of those issues for later during the inspection. On inspection day, make sure you point out these concerns to the inspector, because it'll help them to focus on them and document them so they have that in their report for the sellers to see. Once you have all that and you get bids from specialists, focus on the big things. You don't want to squabble over the small ticket items, but use them as leverage to get the big ticket ones. So I'll focus on the issues that we want the seller to pay for, but include all those other little things as a way to negotiate and be like, hey, there's all of this wrong, but we are only concerned about these, and this is what we really want you to fix for us because we didn't see them coming into this deal. This way, the listing agent who also wants to get this deal done has a clear document to show the seller what you're concerned about and why you're renegotiating on these issues. You don't want to do it by word of mouth because the listing agent isn't going to remember everything you talk about in a phone conversation with your buyer's agent, and they'll summarize it and leave some things out. So it's best to have a list where the seller can see everything and be like, okay, I understand why they want these certain things. Okay, that's it. Now I just want to make sure you applied what you learned. Knowledge doesn't make you smart, applying it does. So now that you have this knowledge and you're ready to make smarter choices, you have to put that into action and good use. Knowing these lessons well enough to actually use them when the time comes in the deal and apply them may take more than one run through. So whether you took some notes on this or just rewatched the video to get it ingrained in your head a little more, it's good to make sure that you can keep these in mind when you get to these points. The main point of this video is to help buyers make smart decisions so they can enjoy their home purchases, and I'll continue to make content towards that end. So if you want to see that in the future, subscribe, and happy house hunting.